So our next guest is a church digital champion at the Church of England, and she's going to take us through a great session on digital mission. So welcome, Liz Morgan.
Hello, thank you so much for having me this evening. It's a real pleasure to be with you here. I've had so many good things about the conference so far, so I'm really excited to be able to, participate and to share some thoughts with you this evening.
We're excited to have you here. Liz, I'm just curious and nosy, where are you connecting from today?
I'm joining you from Southeast London. So I'm in the borough of Greenwich in Charlton, from my little house there with my family. I was sharing that I've managed to get the kids to bed just before the session. Well, my husband did. So I'm really happy that they are not knocking on the door right now.
Mission accomplished. So without further ado, I'm going to let you take over your session.
Thank you so much. It really is a pleasure to be with you here. I hope that that you're ready for some good thoughts this evening, and hopefully some encouragements to share wherever you are around how you are using digital mission. As mentioned, I work for the Church of England. I'm the Church Digital Champion, and for the past 3 years, I have been supporting churches with making the most of online tools and digital communications to keep in touch with your church communities, but also to use it as a tool to reach out further than the 4 walls or the kind of networks that you have in your church already. So seeing how we can use the digital tools to mission, for evangelism and for discipleship. How has the beginning of your year gone? I mean, obviously this has been a great way to start the year off, hasn't it? Having a couple of days to pause, to refresh, to be inspired, to get excited about things, to network with other people. I'm sure it's been a great start to the year. It's been a busy start to the year for me, I'm going to admit. All of those things before Christmas, we had so much going on with the Christmas campaign that we were doing for the Church of England. There was lots of little things that I was like, I'm going to do that in the new year. I'm going to do it in the new year. New Year has come and there's a lot of those little things to do. So I've had a really busy couple of weeks. However, I have made myself time to watch a bit of telly, which I do love. There's been some really great things to watch on the TV. I wonder what you've been watching at the moment. I can't see in the chat, but perhaps if you're there, do share some of the things that you have been watching at the moment. I'd love to know, because I'm sure I can put them on my list. The Tourist has been one of those, top of my list. I confess, I think I watched the whole series in about 2 sittings because there were just so many cliffhangers. Cheer is another one that I've started on this week. Cheer series 2, which is all about a whole load of cheerleaders in America. If you've not watched it, it's really fascinating viewing. So I've been enjoying getting back into that. But there's another one that I want to start that I thought was a great place to start tonight, which is called Hype House. It is on Netflix. Have you watched it? In the chat, if you have, I can't see it, but tell each other that if you have been watching it. Hype House is a docu-series on Netflix, and it's all about a group of influencers who have come together to live in an incredible mansion in LA, and that with the purpose of living together and creating content all together in this one house. To some, this may sound like an absolute dream, and to others it might just sound like your worst nightmare. I know where I sit on this one particularly. It does not sound like a dream to me, but it is an absolute behind the scenes view into the lives of these influencers individually. All of these people that you can see on the screen here have got individually, they've got audiences of millions. And combined together, the impacts of those people living together in this mansion, they have increased their reach, they've increased their influence, and of course, they have been able to increase their revenue. It has been an interesting experience for all of them. And there's been some highs, there's been some lows. They are certainly shaping culture amongst a generation. One of the people on this screen, one of the ones right on the left-hand side there, admitting to spending between £60,000 and £70,000 every single month on creating content. And you can only imagine the revenue that he gets from all of the people that watch it, whether on YouTube, on TikTok, etc. It's incredible, isn't it? Just to think about, this is how people live. And you can see that one of the screenshots I've captured here on the side, it's can be a depressing watch. And I'll admit that I haven't been able to watch a lot of it, because even though it's a fascinating insight into a whole subset of culture that I'm curious to know more about, it is actually a really difficult watch. When you think about narcissistic behaviors, the way that it's all about chasing the likes, chasing the views, about what they can do, they can do bigger and better next time, it can actually be a really difficult watch. Now, we're not talking about how we can do this tonight. We're talking about digital mission, aren't we? And that feels to me like the absolute opposite of what is represented on Hype House and represented in that culture. But when mainstream success is measured in these terms, in the terms of how much money can you make, how much influence can we have online, are we famous on Facebook or TikTok or wherever else it is? If this is the markers of mainstream success, how can we, as Christians, as church communities, how can we mark success? How can we be digital missioners? What should we be looking for? Because the danger is for us, truthfully, that we could also get sucked into this narcissistic cycle. We could be chasing mass approval. We could be looking for the next endorphin hit. What is the answer for us? Perhaps before we go there, before we deep dive into how we can be digital missioners, how we can do this stuff online, perhaps you've come with a question tonight. Perhaps this is certainly one that I have thought about over the last kind of year or so. Should we be avoiding it altogether? This Hype House, it represents, like I said, that narcissistic culture that is so common on social media. And social media can be difficult. Perhaps you've experienced the difficult side of social media, whether it's through the way it's affected mental health, or perhaps some experience you've had there in the way that people talk to each other. Maybe you've been on the receiving end of some of that. It's not nice. It can be a really unkind place. And in training, we do, as part of Digital Labs, is the project that I look after for the Church of England, all that training that I do. I've noticed that more often than not, people aren't saying, what is the purpose of being a church online anymore? They know that. We know that it's a way to reach out for people, but they're asking the question, ethically, should we be here? Should we be encouraging churches to go online and be present on social media when we've seen the privacy issues, the ethical issues, the bullying culture, and the exploitation that we know takes place? I don't have an answer for that. I haven't come with an answer for that. I'm sorry if I've disappointed you building that up, but I really don't. But what I do know is that I'm reminded of how Jesus lived. He never avoided the difficult places. He was often found in the tax collector's home, touching those that were considered unclean and speaking truth in dark places. And this Bible verse here, Mark 2:15-17, it reminds us of that. And Jesus says right at the end, he says, I've not come to call the righteous, I've come for the sinners. And I feel when I look at social media, and yes, it is difficult. And of course, we should look after our mental health. And of course, we set those boundaries. We need to protect ourselves. We need to be careful as well. But it is certainly can be a dark place. But we are here, we are ready, and we are called to be a light within all of those places. So back to our original question, what are the markers of success for us? How can we use digital for mission? And as I prepared for tonight, I was really drawn to the scripture, because obviously, how can we look to the Bible to tell us about social media? But I feel like there is so much in there that can give us a glimpse in how we can be present, how we can use digital for mission. The scripture tells us time and time again about the way that Jesus interacted with communities, with crowds, and with people. And I think this gives us so much insight into how we can use digital for mission. So starting with, who is the one? The story of Zacchaeus is a great example of how Jesus met the one in the Bible time and time again. this verse, Luke 19, 2-5, obviously all of it's up there, but just want to draw your eye to that last bit where Zacchaeus is in the tree. He has gone over the crowd to see Jesus, and he is up there. And Jesus, out of everyone in the crowd, he stops at the bottom of the tree and he looks up and he looks to Zacchaeus. He was drawn to individuals. And this is just one example of so many times that it happens in the Bible, so many times where Jesus stops in a crowd and reaches out and talks to one person. So how can we apply this to our online presence? What can we learn from this? We need to use our platforms to reach our community and connect with people on a one-to-one basis. It is not about chasing a crowd, whether it is the views on our live stream or whether it is the reach on your most recent post. It is about stopping, it is about looking up and seeking the one. So who is that one? It could be that one person who is unable to attend the church building and has been watching your live stream. It could be that one person who's been investigating faith and doesn't know where to start. It could be that young person with a child at home seeking support and community. How can your social media presence encourage, care for, and meet with that one person today? It is not about the crowd, it is about the one. So let me share with you a story of one person. Now, Daniel was not from the Bible. This story came out of some research that the Church of England, the Methodists, and Hope Together did earlier on last year now. And we got lots of research. We did loads of research, spoke to loads of people, and there were lots of stories that came out from that. And this story was from Daniel. Now, Daniel, during the pandemic, found a faith, discovered faith, and went on a journey of faith. And it all began from a comment from a stranger in a Facebook group. And it led him on a journey of discovering faith. Now, I don't know what that comment was. I don't know those details, but what I know is that was the impetus. That was the start of this journey from him, a chance encounter with a stranger in a Facebook group. And I love what he says. I've got a snapshot of what he says here. And he talks about how he met this, had this comment on Facebook, and he went on a journey of faith. He connected with a local church. He started watching online services, and he became part of that community online. And for him, he said that it was good because he wasn't thrust into the middle of all of these people in church, which could have been overwhelming. Instead, he learned at his own place. He got to know people in a different way. Over time, he met people through Zoom, and gradually, as restrictions changed, face to face. And he says, I never felt so welcomed and so loved at any other time in my life. What an amazing story of how one person in a Facebook group set someone off on this journey of faith. And then also a church recognized and saw that one person and enabled them to join in the way that they felt they could, and also enabled them to take steps along that journey as well. What a fantastic example of how we can use our digital and online presence to reach one person. It is not about the mass, it is about the one person. So who can you connect with today? Who is that one person watching your online services? Who is that one person reading your social media posts? Who are the people who need prayer, connection, and community? Next. Where are the wells, the pools, and the marketplaces online? When we look at how Jesus went out in the community and was present around in the area that he was in, he never stayed in one place. It was never come to me. We said come to me, didn't he? But he was never static, staying in one location. He moved to where the people were. Now, in this particular story is the woman at the well. Jesus went and was going through Samaria. He was tired, and he went and found a well on the outskirts of the city. And time again, we see Jesus moving through the towns, the cities, traveling from outskirts to the inner city, to marketplaces, to the wells, to the pools. He went intentionally where the people were, and he went to the awkward places. He went to the dark places, as we already have said. He went where people were. Now, it won't be new information to you, I'm sure. You're here in a digital mission webinar, learning a little bit more about this. It won't be new information to you to tell you of the millions and millions of people who use social media in this country. There are more than 30 million people who use Instagram alone, and more than half of those people check in every single day, multiple times a day. You're familiar with the concept, aren't you? Of course. You know that it's an opportunity to reach people in your local area. But it's important for us to look at, we know why we're doing it, but we need to look at how we're doing it. It is not as simple as creating a page or creating a social media account and expecting people to come along. It is not as simple as that. We need to be present in the wells, the pools and the marketplaces in our online communities, just as Jesus was. Where could these be for you? Where are they in your community? Could it be the local Facebook group that are filled with parents who live and work in the streets around your church building? Join in, be active here, be a presence in that community where those people are. It could be as simple as finding the local hashtags. What are the hashtags that are used in your local area, in the town, the city, wherever it is that you live? Use those hashtags, be present online in that community, and also engage with people who use those hashtags as well. Go and like their posts. Comment, pray for them, be present in their community as well. Go and find your local businesses online, follow their accounts, tell them that they are doing a fantastic job on your high street, encourage them, give them, praise, share what they're up to as well. Be a presence in your local community online, however you can, whatever it looks like for you. Now, a couple of weeks ago, but before Christmas, so probably a month ago now, actually, I was leading some training for a diocese, and we were talking about this concept. We were talking about how can we be present online in our communities, just as Jesus was, visiting towns, cities, wherever he went. And someone in the room piped up and said, "This sounds exactly like what I've been doing, actually. I'm so encouraged." Now, she told me the story of how during the pandemic, now, obviously, they could not go into people's homes to pray with people. And for her, this was such an important part of her, that she saw her ministry in that area. And so she decided that they were going to go and take their live stream to where the people were. So she said they got in their Mini. She must have had a driver. She didn't tell me this information, but she must have, I'm sure. She got her phone and she went on Facebook and she went live, and they would drive around the roads in their town, and they would see people and they would pray for them and they would pray for the roads. And she said as they began to do this regularly, people were watching in their community, people who would never step through the door of their church. They watched them. They would wave. They would be excited to see their name on their road as it went past. They felt like their vicar was coming to them and being part of their community. And she began to reach people, like I said, that would never have walked through the doors of her church before. She went out and used creative ways to be present in her community with her phone, with Facebook, and with her Mini, and hopefully a driver. Although, like I said, I didn't get that information, but I trust that she did. So how can you be present in your community? Where are those pockets for you? They look different for everybody. What it will be like in your community is slightly different in mine, but go and find them. Go and investigate today. Find out where those pockets are and be present there. This is another marker of success for us. Are we being present in our community, and how can we be more present in our communities? So what's next on our list? It is, what is the ask? What is the ask? Now, if you've got a second device tonight, perhaps you're watching on a computer and you've got your phone next to you and you can just go and quickly check. Have a look at your churches or another church that you know of social media presence on whatever platform they're on. Go and look on Instagram, go and look on Facebook, and have a look at the most recent posts that they've shared. What are the topics of those posts? Now, I'm going to hazard a guess, and this is based on experience of looking through churches' social media. That's my job. I do it often. I'm always browsing online, looking at what people are sharing for great examples. And I'm going to hazard a guess that those, at least half of those posts that you see there, at least half of those top 6 are going to be about us advertising a service or event. Come along, join us, join in. The ask will all be about you coming in to the building. During church closures in 2020, 2021, our ability to invite people in the building, it was difficult. We obviously couldn't do it because our buildings were shut. We had to get creative. We had to change what the ask was. We can no longer say, come to us. We realized we had to go out to where the people were, go and meet them online, wherever they are. Church leaders, I noticed a big shift. They had their eyes opened to the opportunity. The training that I've done over the last year, the question has changed. I've seen how it has changed. People are no longer saying to me, how can we get them into the building? People are starting to say, how can we meet people where they are? We have changed the ask, and we need to keep on that. Let's not fall back to join us, come along, come to where we are. You've got to step through the church, our building, before we'll tell you about this Jesus that we know. We've realized that we can go to them and we can meet people where they are first. Jesus met people in his community, didn't he? Let's make sure that we are doing that as well. He never told them to go to the temple first. He went to them first. He met them where they were and he asked them questions, didn't he? Now, I know that you have met, and if you have been in one of her session, I don't know what day it was, but I know that she was as part of a panel talking about TikTok and how we can use this platform for good. Now, you'll know if you come across her, but if you haven't, please go and have a look at what she's doing on TikTok. Christ Church Wesham is her TikTok channel, and she has nearly 100,000 followers on the channel, which is a phenomenal amount for an account that was only started back in 2020. She is the perfect illustration of how we need to go and meet people where they are, how we change the ask from come to us to I am going to go and be present in your world wherever you are. She started this TikTok channel back in early 2020, back when she knew nothing about the channel, and she had a desire to understand the influence that it was having on the young people that she knew. She wanted to understand it. She wanted to get behind the scenes on this channel and understand it, and also be a presence, sharing good news, sharing a light in those spaces. And she has done a fantastic job of that. She gets hundreds and hundreds of prayer requests. She gets people asking her questions about faith. They've started a YouTube channel as a result, where she points people to understand a little bit more, shares our videos over there, which are longer, where people can kind of delve into a subject a little bit more. But it all started with her just saying, I want to be present in a place where I know that the young people that I know are, and I want to shine a light there. It was never about come to the building. And that's the thing with TikTok. These 100,000 followers that she's had, they'll be all over the world. They're certainly not on her doorstep. But she sees this as an opportunity to be present in the lives of people wherever they are. Now, it's not our ambition to have 100,000 followers tonight. But of course, it's just a perfect example of just going out there and being consistent and showing up where people are online. So lastly, my last thought on what the markers of success are. My last one is it's all connected. So my final verse in John 14, 6-7, it's It's Jesus saying, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really know me, you will know my Father as well. Jesus wanted people to know the Father. Everything he did when he was living on this earth was framed by that. The conversations that he had, the places that he went, the way he challenged culture was all centered on he wanted us to know who the Father really was. It's all connected. It's all connected. You know, as a church community and as Christians online, everything should be connected. What we do online should not be disconnected from the mission and the values as a church. So what is your mission as a church? Why are you where you are? Is your mission for local families in your community? Is it for the young people at your local high school? Is it for justice? Are you wanting to stand in the gap for those in need? What is your mission? Now use your online presence as a tool in your toolkit to achieve this. Do not separate your online presence from your mission, your vision, and your values as your church. Otherwise, you may fall into the trap of chasing the next endorphin hit and seeking out the large crowd. And that's where we found out, we're back where we found ourselves right at the beginning, aren't we? Talking about Hype House. How can we be different from this? What are our markers of success? Our digital presence, you know, it's a toolkit. It should always be seen as a toolkit, part of our toolkit. It's where we can meet those one people in our community, the ones. It's how we can be present in our communities, in the wells, the pools, the marketplaces. It's how we can shine a light in the dark corners of the internet. And it's how we can meet people where we are. It is all connected. Do not separate your digital presence from your mission as a church or as a Christian. It is all connected. So as we close tonight, let me ask you again, who is the one for you? Who is those one people that you would love to meet? Use your online presence to meet them. Where are the wells, the pools, and the marketplace? What is your ask? Don't just ask people to come along to the building. Think about what could that new ask be for us. And don't forget that is all connected. Do not separate your mission from your digital presence. Connect the dots, make it all sit together, and it will be so much easier for you in the long run. Thank you for listening tonight. I hope that there's been lots of encouragements there. I'm going to stop my share for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz. That was amazing. And just to let you know that on the chat we had Selling Sunset.
Oh yes.
Stay Close.
And oh yes, I haven't got into that one.
Yeah.
The description makes me feel a bit worried. Do you know what I mean? When you read stuff, you're like, oh, is this going to play on my mind? Anyway, carry on.
I think it'll play on my mind, so I'm saving it. But I love Richard Armitage as an actor. He always ends up producing really great content, so I thought I'll save it. And then Becca says she's going to start the tourist, so no spoilers about
no spoilers. Oh my gosh, it was tense. It was very tense, but yeah, it's a good one. Enjoy. Don't watch it on your own.
So thank you so much for that. So informative, especially when we think about the journey that the church has gone through, where maybe social media was just a small department and digital, I should actually say, was just a small department. And now we've been thrown into digital being the main focus, especially in the pandemic. So just the first question that I have is, now that things have opened up and we're now working with hybrid, but we're also working with, still working with online, what encouragement, what advice would you have for churches? Because I did jump onto my church's platform and have a look, and I was thinking, how do we avoid just being a notice board and this is what's happening in church? But rather than like saying, how can we come to you? So how can we still be involved online digitally with that invitation of going to people rather than just saying, come to us, come to us?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think some of the examples I use, for example, the vicar who went in her car, she was praying for people online. I think that's a great example of saying, I'm going to pray for you, but using an online tool. And another story I didn't share, so I'm going to share it now, which perhaps you've heard me, other people may have heard me share this one before because I love it. It's a church that just started to ask questions online. And so they would say, sometimes fun, sometimes more serious. And one of the questions was, how can we pray for you? And if you looked on their social media, it was never the post that got like loads of comments. It was the post that would get the direct messages, because people would privately say, this is what I need prayer for. And this particular post on this particular day was spotted by someone who'd been along to church once a long time ago, and then saw this and was actually like, yeah, I need prayer today, right now. And got in touch with the church. It led her on a journey, and she ended up becoming a Christian. And that was all because the church said, how can I pray for you? Yeah. So I think we don't need to overcomplicate this ask. We don't need to kind of like create massive programs that need to be online, or do huge online services which take up so much resource. They're tricky to put together. But let's just think about, what are the encouragements that we could share? How could we pray for our communities? How could we just champion people that are around us? Think about the businesses that are in your communities. Could you just like champion some of those and just say, we're praying for you, we love our local high street? What's the local, I don't know, butcher came into my head. I don't know why the butcher came into my head, but whatever it is on your local village high street, wherever you are, can you champion those businesses? Can you connect with the local schools? What can you do just to be present, loving on them?
Yeah. Great. That's great. And I love what you said about who is the one. And I guess I always think everything that we do, I was always told that everything that you do, just remember, it's not an audience of many, but just an audience of one, the one who created you. And then when you think about it, as you said, like, then Jesus always identified the one. And I guess we also read in Luke. I love the Gospel of Luke, because I even bought a book called Eating Your Way Through Luke, because that's all Jesus does, is he just sits in social settings and he teaches and he fellowships and he just meets people in those really relaxed settings. So even just going back to when you were talking about who can you praise and encourage, and I was thinking, all those cafes I've been in over the past few weeks, I should be saying, well done, good job, because it's been tough for them over this time, and even tougher because things haven't eased up. So much pressure on cafes and bars and restaurants. So yeah, that's going to be my takeaway, is I'm going to give a shout out and even just send a private message to those restaurant owners and bar owners and everyone, say, I am praying for you. Your staff have been doing a really great job. But I guess what other not innovative, but what other things have you heard people doing? Because I was just also thinking, like, I'm not on TikTok, which is quite surprising. I'm not on TikTok and I don't do reels, but seeing the Vicar on TikTok, and I was thinking, yeah, meeting people where they're at, doing things. I was doing a lot of posting. I was doing like my morning prayers, and it was just really simple prayers, but then I always had an ask at the end. So I prayed for a specific topic, and then I said, send me your prayer request at the end. And I did find lots of people send me private prayer requests. But what are other things that we can do just to keep those conversations going, and I guess to engage more with people? I know you've used the example of the Vicar, but what else can we do?
Yeah. I think it's helpful. Like I was as you were talking about community, I was thinking about a church that I know that does loads of work in their community, and this is slightly different to social media, but it's their websites. And I think it's important for us to consider this as well, that they have used their website really strategically, that they often come up in the Google search. And for things like dance class in their local area, they're up there because they've got dance classes running in their church. Food bank in this particular local area, they're right up there. And so I think that we can think about, when I was talking about, it's all connected, the things that you're already doing as a church, how can you share those a little bit better online? How can we make sure they're on our homepages? How can we make sure that our homepages talk about our local community? Is the name of your area in your homepage of your website? Because I've been on many church websites, and there are times where I look through them and I'm like, I do not know where this church is. It's got some name and it's somewhere, but I don't know where that is. just make sure that you name drop your local community on the homepage of your website several times, and that will help you appear better in a Google search. So do little things like that, because engaging our community doesn't have to look like creating lots of content. That is part of it, but it could also be meeting their needs. I'm looking for a budget dance class for my young child in my local area. The church has it. Oh, look, this particular church I know has got loads of people coming along to their dance class. And they said to me the other week, I don't know why. And I was like, well, I know why. It's because you're top of the Google search for it. If you look for dance classes in your area, you're there. Wow. That is why people find you. And they're finding then that people are coming into their building. They've got packed out dance classes, and they're meeting the vicar. They're talking to people about faith, and they're coming along to church. So it doesn't have to look like creating lots of content. It could just be thinking about, well, how can we just raise our profile as a church community so that our spire sticks out online a little bit further, so that people do just come along in other ways, and we engage them with other things that they need, which can be a journey along the road to faith. And it doesn't always have to obviously end in someone coming along to being a committed member of a Sunday service. It could be that they continue to do that midweek, and that's the relationship that grows from that, and they experience faith in a slightly different way perhaps. But yeah, thinking about it doesn't all have to be creating lots of content. Think about your website, think about other things that you're doing as well.
That's great. Thank you so much, Liz. How can people connect with you if they want to get in touch?
Yeah, do. So Digital Labs is obviously a great place to go to on the Church of England website. We have loads of blogs, loads of free resources, webinars we'll be starting again back in February. And there's also a newsletter. So if you want to join the newsletter, go to Digital Labs on the Church of England website. Join us there. That's a great place to connect. I'm also on Twitter. That's more often where work stuff is. Instagram is for friends and family only. Twitter, I'm Social Morgan on there, so come and join me there if you want to chat. I'm always up for that. Yes, there, that's a great place to connect. I'm also on Twitter. That's more often where work stuff.
Sorry,
was that me? That was me coming back.
Feedback. That's me.
Lovely feedback. Anyway, yeah, do join me there.
Thank you so much, Liz. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and lots of takeaways.
Fantastic.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.